You started out with a dream. You worked to reach it. But now you're realizing the dream doesn't fit you or your relationship anymore. Maybe that dream was the home, the business, the family, or the lifestyle. You built it with everything you had, and for a while, maybe it was perfect. But lately, something feels off. You're looking around and thinking, wait, is this still what we want or just what we said we wanted? If that question has been sitting quietly in the back of your mind, this episode's for you. We're talking about what happens when high-achieving, goal-driven couples, and couples who've done all the, quote, right things, realize they've outgrown the original dream that once defined them. And more importantly, how to realign your shared vision now that you've both changed. Because dreams aren't supposed to stay frozen in time. They're supposed to evolve right along with you. So grab a warm drink and let's dive in. Welcome to Relationship Reset, Reignite, Reconnect, Rebuild. The podcast for high-achieving couples who want to transform their relationship from surviving to thriving. I'm Katie Russler, a relationship coach and counselor with over 15 years of experience helping busy, overwhelmed couples rebuild connection, trust, and intimacy. If you've been together for years and feel stuck on autopilot, disconnected and frustrated by constant miscommunication, you're in the right place. Each week, we'll explore practical tools, relatable stories, and strategies to help you reignite the spark, rebuild your bond, and create the relationship you've always dreamed of. Because no matter how long you've been together, it's never too late to hit reset. Let's dive in. I want to start with a story from a session I had a few years ago. A couple came in, let's call them Mark and Elena. They've been together almost 20 years, 2 kids, successful business, beautiful home, all the works, right? From the outside, they were the couple. Everyone always thought things were so great for them. But inside, things felt pretty stuck. When I asked what brought them in to see me, Mark said, "We don't fight much. We're just kind of like fine, but it doesn't feel like us anymore." Elena jumped in. "We spent so many years working towards this, our business, our home, having stability. And now that we have it, I feel like I'm suffocating in it." She told me, "We built a dream together, but the dream doesn't fit anymore." And Mark said next to her, "I guess I don't know who we're building for now." That moment was really powerful because it was honest. There was nothing wrong. They were just realizing that the dream they built in their 20s no longer matched the people they'd become in their 40s. That realization is the pivot point. It's not the beginning of the end. It's the beginning of the next version of your goals in your relationship. So we're going to talk through 3 key ideas today, okay? The first one is how to recognize when you've outgrown your original dream, which many of us have. The second is why identity shifts are a healthy and necessary part of long-term love. And the third is how to realign and co-create a shared vision that fits who you are now. Okay, so let's dive into the first one. How do we recognize when we've outgrown our original dream? Here's the tricky thing about success. When you finally get what you've been chasing, you assume fulfillment will naturally follow, but sometimes success becomes a mask for disconnection. Here are a few clues your old dream might not fit anymore. You've achieved the life you wanted, but it doesn't feel satisfying. You still feel somewhat empty. You talk mostly about logistics in your relationship, things like schedules, finances, tasks, but not about dreams or goals anymore. You can't remember the last time you imagined something new together, creating a whole new vision. One of you brings up an idea, a trip, a move, a new project, and the other instantly lists reasons it doesn't work. I often talk with my clients about the maximizer versus the minimizer dynamic that can happen, where somebody starts to squash the excitement because they're trying to balance the system without realizing it. Or you feel more like business partners than dream partners. None of these mean the relationship is failing. They mean the structure that once worked simply needs an upgrade. When Mark and Elena saw that, the tension softened. It wasn't you versus me, it was us versus the version of the dream that no longer fits. And that's a much better starting point where they were on the same team of starting to vision and goal set in a brand new way. So let's look at how shifts in our identity are normal and necessary. Here's something I tell every couple I work with. You're not supposed to stay the same. In fact, I'm worried if you do. I sometimes hear couples say things like, "You're not the person I married." And I go, well, good thing, because we're all constantly growing. I think you're trying to say you don't like who they've turned into. But we are going to change. Our identity is going to shift. Every long-term relationship will experience multiple identity shifts. This includes career changes, passion shifts, kids growing up, losses that happen, priorities that evolve. You are two dynamic humans, not static characters in a single storyline. When we resist those shifts in identity, right, we get stuck trying to live inside an outdated identity. The us from 10 or 20 years ago isn't going to work anymore. When we embrace our new identities, the relationship matures into something richer. The most resilient couples don't stay identical. They stay curious. I'm going to say that again. The most resilient couples don't stay identical. They don't stay the same as they were. They stay curious. They're growing. They keep asking, who am I becoming? Who are you becoming? What matters most to you now? What matters most to me now? What matters to us? How can I meet you where you're going? Sometimes these shifts don't happen in sync. One partner is growing quickly, starting therapy, exploring purpose, reinventing work, while the other feels caught off guard. This can feel threatening, like the ground is moving beneath you. But in reality, it's an invitation to grow together. I once heard a speaker talk about it being like a napkin on your hand. You have this flat napkin on your hand, and it's like you are in the center, and there are people on the corners on the outside. And let's imagine one of those is your partner who's maybe not growing as quickly as you in certain areas of your life. As you start to lift the napkin from the center, right? We're pulling it up, that part of you that's growing upwards, expanding, learning more things. It will feel in the beginning like the corners of the napkin are trying to weigh it down. But what we actually know is that the more the napkin raises, the corners are lifted too. All of it lifts off the hand. So the importance is when we start to grow individually and we feel a bit like our partner's holding us back or that they're not right there beside us, we need to be patient, continue our growth, and understand that we are a lighthouse to lifting them up too. Another thing to think about is that long-term love is a series of reintroductions. You get to meet each other again and again, and each version deserves a new dream. We are always evolving and changing, and it's important that we get to know each other, go on a date and ask each other questions about what our dreams and goals are for the future. What are the things that we're interested in now? Get to know each other as you start to shift and change. So let's talk about how to realign and co-create a new shared vision. Let's get practical on this. You know, I'm all about practical strategies. I have a training I do with couples called the Couples Compass, and I teach something called the vision realignment process. It's a simple, powerful 3-step reset you can do anytime you feel like you've lost your shared why. So here's a brief overview of it. Step 1, you're going to revisit your why. Your relationship started with a why. Maybe it was adventure, stability, passion, family, growth, whatever it might be. That why gave you purpose. But that purpose has lately evolved, right? So revisit it. Ask each other, what do we value most in this season of life? What do we want to feel more of? Peace, play, purpose, connection? And what does success as a couple look like now? You do this individually first, then come together and share. There's no debating, no fixing, just listening. You're literally just sharing your points of view. You might find that your new why has the same roots, but different branches. What I mean by that is it's a shared goal and a shared vision, but it has different ways of approaching it. That doesn't mean that they're wrong. They're just different. The second step then is to identify what no longer fits. Think of this as decluttering your relationship, okay? Ask yourselves, what part of our old dream still fits? What feels forced and outdated? And what expectations are we carrying that belong to a younger version of us? When Mark and Elena did this, they realized their dream of growing the business bigger every year no longer matched what they actually wanted. They wanted time and time together. And even though they were working together, it was not the type of time they wanted together. They were still living by a goal they made 15 years ago when ambition was their love language, right? We all know that. High achievers tend to have ambition as part of their love language. You might realize your roles need updating too. What I call your CHO tasks, Chief Household Officer roles. Maybe one of you has become the emotional manager and the other the logistics manager, and it's time to rebalance that load. The goal here isn't blame, it's awareness. You guys have evolved. Things have changed. It's time to revisit those roles. Once you see what's outdated, you can make space for what's next. Then the third step is create a shared mission statement. This is where it all comes together. A shared vision isn't a list of goals, it's a compass. That's why I like to call it the couple's compass. It points you towards how you want to live and why it matters. Your new mission statement might sound like, we're building a relationship that values growth, laughter, and meaningful connection. Or we want a life that feels peaceful, purposeful, and alive, where we each get to evolve and still choose each other every day. Keep it visible. Read it out loud once a month. Check in annually. Because as you grow, your vision should too. And if this sounds like something that's right up your alley as a couple, I have a vision and goal setting workbook that is for you. It is free and it comes with an easy to listen to audio series about the challenges that couples face when they're trying to goal set and gives you tools on how to work through those. So make sure you grab it in the show notes below. Okay, let's put this into motion. Here's your homework this week. Number 1, schedule a state of us conversation. We'd like to call it a state of the family in our house. I've had couples say it's called state of the union. Block 90 minutes, no phones, no interruptions, and ask each other, what part of our dream still works? What no longer fits? What do we want our next chapter to look like? The goal is an agreement, okay? It's about connection. Let's hear from each of us what it is we want, what's not working for us anymore, and then come together to talk about what to do. The next step I want you to do is make a vision Venn diagram. Draw 2 circles, yours and your partner's, and list your current dreams and goals in each. Where they overlap, that's part of your shared vision. What doesn't overlap isn't conflict, it's individuality. It's where you learn to support rather than fix each other. Then number 3, update your roles and rhythms. Revisit the responsibilities you've each taken on. Ask, does this still make sense for who we are today? Redistributing tasks based on current strengths and season can instantly bring more harmony. I was working with a client the other day and asked, why are you still doing some of these habits that you did when the kids were at home? They're in college now and you're still doing it and you're resenting your partner for it, but it's your choice. And they were like, oh my gosh, I totally didn't even think about it. I can stop this habit now. This is going to free up so much time for me, but I hadn't thought about it. If we don't stop and talk about our roles and rhythms, basically our habits, we're not going to realize, hey, we don't need to do these anymore. If you don't have time this week for a longer meeting, then I want you to have one 15-minute conversation using this prompt. If we were meeting for the first time today, knowing everything we've lived and learned, what would we build together now, right? What would our legacy, our goals and visions be now? Let it be curious. Let it be creative. Write down what comes up. There's no right answer, only new insights. So maybe you have outgrown your original dream, but that doesn't mean you've failed. It means you've evolved. Your relationship was never meant to stay the same. It's meant to grow, to expand, to keep finding new alignment as life shifts. When you realign your vision, you don't just preserve the relationship, you breathe new life into it. Gosh, doesn't that sound amazing? Remember, you didn't get the dream wrong the first time. It was perfect for who you were then. You've just become new people. And that means it's time for a new dream. So make sure to go in the show notes and get the vision and goal setting workbook for couples. I know you're going to find it such a helpful tool in starting these conversations, but also getting pen to paper on what you're going to start working towards in the next year. Because your story isn't over. It's just time for the next chapter. Okay, everyone, I'll see you next week. Thanks for tuning in to Relationship Reset. If you found this episode helpful, share it with a friend who might need it too. Don't forget to rate and review the podcast. It helps more couples discover these tools to rebuild their connection too. And be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss next week's episode. It's gonna be a good one. Your relationship is worth the work, and the rewards, totally worth the effort. See you next week.